Under the First Amendment of the Constitution of the United States, we are guaranteed 5 freedoms: the freedom of speech, religion, the press, assembly, and to petition. We have all these luxurious freedoms, but imagine if they were just taken away. Unfortunately, that is the case for many Chinese citizens and has been that way for decades. Which leads us to today's question. Is Xi Jinping's Cultural Revolution working? The Chinese Cultural Revolution was a socio-political movement from 1966 to 1976. Unfortunately, this system has and continues to fail, as it strips away basic human rights from its citizens, such as the freedom of speech and of religion. Today, we're going to look at the history of the Chinese Cultural Revolution, who founded it, what was the goal, etc., how it affected the Chinese when it was first implemented, and how it's affecting the Chinese now, as it's still being pushed in propaganda and being taught to the youth in China, as we'll get to in a moment. My first point is to point out the checkered history of the Chinese Cultural Revolution. The movement was started by Mao Zedong in 1966 and lasted until his death in 1976. Zedong was also the founder of the People's Republic of China. The main goal of the movement was to preserve Chinese communism by removing all forms of capitalism, such as a free market, and traditional elements from Chinese society. While the ideas of communism may sound good on paper, equality and basic necessities for all, getting rid of social class ranks so that, again, everybody is equal, it is very vicious in practice, and unfortunately in China, the road to achieve communism was paved in the blood of the innocent. There were many mass killings, and even a civil war broke out in 1968 that lasted through the entire year. This movement already has a checkered history, and it's even more alarming when you look at how it affected the Chinese people when it was first implemented, which leads to my second point. How did it affect the Chinese when it was first established? The immediate effects was that the economy was brought to a complete halt, and many historical and cultural texts, materials, etc. were destroyed. As I already mentioned, there were many mass killings, including the Red Terror, which lasted from August to December 1968, and the all-round Civil War that lasted from January to December 1967. Like I said, an entire year of war because of a political movement. Zedong also started the Cleansing the Class Ranks political purge in 1968. This was mainly an attack on the bourgeoisie class of China at the time, and it led to many being sent to re-educational camps across China. Does this really sound like freedom? In America, we have the freedom to speak up against a tyrannical government, but in China, anyone that opposed it was slaughtered. This is not it's not freedom, it's a dictatorship, and the system only works because the dictators will kill anybody that disagrees with their point. My final point is to look at how it's affecting China now. In an article published by Reuters on August 24th of this year, they wrote that China is now implementing Xi Jinping thought into their national curriculum. This propagandist idea is meant to establish a Marxist belief in the country's youth. So they're basically upbringing the entire youth of the nation on the idea that this system is perfect and nothing's flawed, and you don't speak against it because it's just flawless and we're just perfect people. They're not. As I've mentioned, it's a flawed system. The Daily Wire wrote in an article published in April of this year that China has created secret facilities that they are sending captured Christians to, and those Christians are forced into torture unless they amend their faith. As a Christian, I feel for my brothers and sisters in Christ across the seas that can't experience the same freedoms that I do. Regardless if they're being peaceful or violent, they're still captured. Even if you're just walking with a Bible under your arm on the street, you can still be incarcerated, even killed, just because you wanted to worship God as you chose. But Christians are not the only ones being attacked in China. Many other sources say that Uyghur Muslims have been attacked in China and sent off to concentration camps. Again, it doesn't matter if you're being peaceful or violent. You're just trying to worship your God in the way that you choose. And as long as it's not harming anyone else, there isn't anything wrong with that. But in China, if you do it, it's automatically bad because it goes against the government system. And China doesn't only attack the freedom of religion, they also attack the freedom of speech. In a list compiled by rsf.org, they ranked countries based off how much freedom of speech their citizens had. Out of 180 countries, China ranked number 177th. That's lower than other dictator countries like Russia and Saudi Arabia. number 177th. That means that only 3 are below that. From indoctrinating their youth into the idea that their system is perfect, to attacking anyone that disagrees with them on any sort of level, to killing those that speak out against this evil tyranny, the Cultural Revolution in China then and now is a complete failure. Thank you.